I have to confess up front that my children are older than yours. I have 2 kids, and my daughter is now 19, and my son is about to be 17. But it became a thing in our family a couple of years ago to watch the original Gossip Girl, Gossip Girl, and we would watch it, and it became our ritual. Yeah. And the kids, because they were too young when it originally happened, and so we all kind of bonded over watching it together. And then I would freak Sona out because here I am, a man well into my 80s, and I would be at work and I would be talking about the plot line of Gossip Girl, and I know all the names.
Yeah.
That's really surprising.
And I know all this stuff, and you would say, Conan, it's like it's creepy that you know so much about what's happening.
His TV knowledge is 1970s cop dramas and Gossip Girl.
And
that's
Gossip Girl.
It. That's it.
That is really, okay, all right. I'm
going to tell you something. It holds up. It holds up.
That's good to hear.
It holds up, and you have moved on, and
have I?
Yes,
Sure.
Yes, you have. I have certain obsessions, which is the breakfasts you guys have on that show.
Right. The waffles.
The waffles, and Rufus is your dad is always making what looks to be like a $1,700 Four Seasons breakfast. You guys each take one little bite and then say, I gotta go, and leave.
You're right. Every single time.
Every single time.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at all this untouched, beautiful golden brown Belgian waffles, giant piles of strawberries, giant pitchers of freshly squeezed orange juice.
Yeah.
And
one man did that.
One man did that, and he gave up his music career to do it. But also, clearly, and this ties into what I want to talk about later on in the conversation, which is your podcast, which I've been really enjoying, and Podcrushed, and when Podcrushed. Sorry, Podcrushed. Your podcast, Podcrushed, which. One of the things that you talk about is people who are experiencing middle school and being awkward and having all this anxiety, and all of us felt a lot of that at that age. And it's really good to get the word out that that's how it is. And yet you first came to fame as part of this show that was, showing people this really the most super confident.
It did not permit for that.
No one had acne.
No. Well, because we were all in our 20s.
You were.
It's not...
I still had acne in my 20s, Penn. I don't know what your problem is. I had acne up until Obama's second term. But one of the things that what I watch now, and clearly the show plays to almost the camp of it, is I love watching Chuck Bass. The Chuck Bass character, he's literally calling people, there's like a fireplace behind him and he's wearing a smoking jacket.
Yeah, like he's 60 years old.
And he's telling people, I've got controlling interests of Krilko Industries. I bought out your shares. You're through. See yourself out. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. He's 15, and he's got a PSAT tomorrow. And I love it. I can't get enough of it. I just love all of it.
I really like this perspective. I need this perspective.
Well, but it's really great because your character is the sort of dose of reality. You're constantly looking around saying, this is in many ways.
That's true. That's true. Now, this is the thing that I grappled with a lot when I was on the show, and I was clear with it about the writers, and I was it was open conversation, I guess.
Right.
The thing about Dan Humphrey that it seems is that the whole point of the show is that it discovered that it's the joy of the experience was that it wasn't worried about the real world. It wasn't worried about the moral center. So Dan became kind of like, well, he became Gossip Girl. Is really what he had to become.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Spoiler alert.
But no, it is still. It's really fun to watch, and I remember because I was living in New York at the time what a big deal it was when you guys would be shooting on the street. And of course, I was too old. Had I been hanging out trying to see one of you come out of a trailer, I'd have been arrested, and rightfully so. But it was such a big deal. It was such and it's this document of this cultural moment. But I do think the show has a sense of humor about itself. Clearly,
absolutely.
You know, they're clearly enjoying the fact that no. It's all what we wish we could have been at that age, including
those of us on the show.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's true.
It's completely aspirational in that sense that it's fantasy.
The first time that I ran across that was 90210 when that was coming along in the 80s, and it was such a big deal. And I remembered thinking, I know why this is so appealing to everybody. It's all what we wish high school could have been in some ways. Do you know what I mean? I wish if I knew then what I know now, if I knew how to talk to someone of the opposite sex, if I had a credit card, if I had a decent car, maybe things would have been different. We all know that they wouldn't have been.
They wouldn't have been. Yeah. Nor would they. See, this is where, I think so as there's levels to it, and so what you just described, I think, makes it's the charm of it. And then I think what I grappled with during it was also, what is the net effect? It can't be measured, but what is the net effect of because it's just one drop in this bucket of storytelling we've seen for the last 50 years or something about glamorized, glorified youth.
Yep.
And actually, I don't feel like I'm here to really promote my podcast. I feel silly, but I do have one, and that is what we talk about.
I've been listening to your podcast, and it occurred to me that it fascinates me. There is a connection to, some of the work that you were doing, just getting started in your career, which is something that is, it is almost a whole subgenre of entertainment, which is we're going to present 17-year-olds who go to high school or 18-year-olds, and we're going to show them in this way that we all kind of wish we could have been.
Or want to be currently, if you're in the writer's room and you're maybe 35 and because really that is the way they all behave emotionally in relationship. It's far closer to that of a 30-something or a late 20s, in New York or LA. It's that. It really is, I think, the sort of fantasy behavior of how adults want to be. If you saw actual 15 and 16-year-olds cast in these roles, you'd be horrified.
Yeah.
You really would be horrified.
Well, it would be so funny because there'd be a real 15-year-old with cystic acne who's playing Chuck Bass going, "You're through at Bass Enterprises."
Exactly, and he's vomiting from the scotch he's drinking.
Yeah. This is scotch. This is burning my throat. You're through at Basco. What are you doing up? Mother!
Yeah.
I'm trying to fire the shareholder. Go to bed. I'm sorry, he doesn't have any shares in your company. He's not old enough. You still have the company. Don't say that! It's funny. That'd be what you just pitched is to me a really funny sketch of Gossip Girl played by actual 14 and 15-year-olds. It's shot single camera, and people making these moves like I'm off to Paris. No, you're not. You're not fucking going to Paris. You're going to go to high school.
Yeah.
By the way, don't you have a paper due tomorrow? I'm on the trail of a killer. No, you're not.
That's right. On the trail of an actual killer.
Yeah.
Doing the FBI's work.
Yes. They always have a scheme.
Yeah.
And it's always okay, here's the plan. We're all going to go to Stad. We're taking a private plane to Stad, and we're going to stop them from stealing. I don't know. I love to quote Stad, but I don't really know where it is. Is Stad in Switzerland? I think it's in Switzerland.
I have no idea. You always use it as your
it's a go-to.
Yeah.
Someday I want to have some money nestled away in Stad. But anyway, it is Switzerland.
Oh.
It just really that's a really funny idea. Is we'll get together and we'll produce that because actually really awkward kids and constantly their parents intervening and saying, no, you're not a shareholder. You don't, you have no, get back into your room and finish. No, you can't. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I actually think like the quote unquote love scenes, like the real awkwardness of two 15-year-olds kind of like barely being able to look at each other and just, having I mean, think about that. Think about the emotional maturity of a 15, 16, 17-year-old in a relationship. I mean, you think about the way that like we would hold each other's faces and look longingly and say things like, I've never, just something that's meant to be quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
And you think of like the way a real teenager would do that.
Oh, I still have never held anyone's face. I've been married 20 years. And if I put my hands on my wife's face, I think she'd call the police. Do you know what I mean? And looked into her eyes, she'd be like, why are you looking at me?
I feel like if you were cast in one of these high school shows, it would be actually more accurate.
Yeah, I could do it now. Now at 59, if you cast me as a 19-year-old in Gossip Girl, I think I would be more convincing than 22-year-olds playing 19-year-olds.
Even on that, I would even say that there's no one who's okay. Just practically speaking, the shot that looks good from the side of two people in love saying "I love you." You're so close, you actually can't see each other. You're out of focus. One eye is here, the other eye is there, and you're just like, and you're just like, okay, this is. You're actually. It's really absurd when you're bringing it to life.
You never actually got a good look at Blake Lively.
No, I know. I wouldn't recognize her in the street.
Just a blur. I can see that now, and I'm gonna look for that now when I go back. And you seem uncertain about what you're. Am I talking to a waffle or Blake Lively?